This BBC is one I wouldn't normally do, but I received 2 emails about the topic I'm going to talk about. One email was from my brother, who very seldom writes me, like almost never. And the other was from a friend who is not Buddhist. So what happened, apparently there was an interview with His Holiness by a BBC journalist recently. Now, you may remember some time ago, somebody asked His Holiness if he would ever come back as a female Dalai Lama. And he said yes, but if he did, it would have to be a beautiful woman. So this BBC interview that happened a few days ago asked the interviewer, who was a woman, asked His Holiness if he could see how saying that might be offensive to women. Yeah, and His Holiness said, he restated it again, and he said, should be an attractive woman because nobody wants to look at a dead face. And, this is, what people want. This is what people do. So many people were very unhappy with him saying this, okay? So I was thinking about if I could unpack what maybe His Holiness meant, and say it in different words, because I agree with just that short bit that he said about having to be a beautiful woman. I, too, am not, that doesn't fit well with me because it makes women seem like objects. Anyway, what I think His Holiness might have meant is men and women, or the Dalai Lama could come back as a man or as a woman. Yeah, whoever it is should be somebody who is attractive. Yeah, the BBC interviewer did say to His Holiness, I should have said this earlier, isn't beauty inside? And he said, yes, of course, but also should be outside. Otherwise, people won't want to look. So what I think His Holiness is saying, okay, is that any Dalai Lama should be somebody who is doesn't have to be beautiful, doesn't have to be sexy, but and shouldn't be sexy, but should be somebody with a pleasant expression. Why? Because if people don't have pleasant expressions, then nobody wants to talk to them, and people project things on them. But both men and women can cultivate compassion and practice equally. Okay, so that's what perhaps he meant, or if I were to see him, what I would suggest he explains in greater detail. Also, because there was another time, he often talks about women and mothers, not women, but mothers being the image of compassion, and how they automatically have so much compassion. And as a nun, I've heard him say that, and sitting with a group of nuns, and the nuns are all going, well, most of us are not mothers, but, we're really trying hard to develop compassion, so what about us? And then I heard from somebody who does the videos for His Holiness that some men have written in, and they were offended by him saying that, because they say we can develop compassion too. Okay, so again, I think what His Holiness means when he says that kind of stuff is that everybody can develop compassion, Yeah, men can develop it, women can develop it, nuns can develop it, mothers develop it. But in our society, the most obvious image and the person who many people see as their model for compassion or as their first instance of compassion is their mother. Because I know that's true for His Holiness. Whenever he talks about his family, he says he learned compassion from his mother, but his father was kind of angry. So I thought to add this little bit in case any of the people out there have seen this recent interview and are wondering, why His Holiness is saying that a female Dalai Lama should be beautiful, but it doesn't say anything about male Dalai Lamas. Okay, I think what he's also, saying not only that any person should be pleasant looking, but he's also saying, look at how society judges women. For example, Hillary during the last election, so much was written on her hair and her makeup and her clothes. And, they talked more about her physical appearance often than her policies. So I think His Holiness is also pointing that out. And, I think that's something we should also be very attentive to and listen to somebody's speech and not and their ideas and not care so much about their physical appearance.
I wonder if he's saying that in a cultural context as well, because we have such women in the West feel so much value placement on our appearance, but for instance, Tibetan women, I've heard they actually brag about getting older, for instance. So if your value wasn't so attached to your appearance, would that offend you as much?
I think most cultures value women according to their appearance. Bottom line is women are sex objects across all cultures, Is this addressing your point here?
It sounds like you don't agree with my point.
Yeah, because
or my point isn't correct, maybe.
No, I don't agree with it. It may be from your perspective, it looks correct. I've lived in the Tibetan community. Tibetan women care a lot about their appearance, and Tibetan men judge women based on their appearance too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I was thinking in terms of the Dalai Lama, and for instance, guilt is something that he didn't understand. So from that perspective, there are cultural things maybe that are a little bit different. But
yeah,
you're speaking to that.
Yeah, he may not understand the degree to which Western women feel offended by that.
Oh, yeah, so maybe...
Okay. Tibetan women...
Maybe they just blow it off a little more or something.
Well, or Tibetan women, at my mother's generation, women were flattered when men commented on their appearance. In my generation, I think many women and the current generation, they're flattered when men comment on their appearance, but there's a growing movement towards some women being offended by this because they feel like they're just being looked at as objects.
Right. Yeah, I guess the disturbance for most people would be, well, that means that you're really saying that, let's say, an ugly woman or a woman who doesn't have a positive, she can't have these spiritual qualities or be this person in a position of power, and that's what's hard for women.
Yeah, well, that's, I think, why people objected to him saying that, because in our culture it carries, to me, not so much the thing that unattractive women can't have spiritual qualities, but that it's difficult for them to be in positions of power because society judges women more on their physical appearance than on their intellect.
But wouldn't that be a reason to come back as an ugly woman Dalai Lama? Because then you could start to change that.
Yes,
Because
but he
people
may
automatically
not
respect.
realize how women in the West see things. That's where the cultural thing goes. It would be nice if he came around and said that explicitly, but I don't think that he has the understanding of the culture here. Okay?
Right.